5 months ago, I moved to Mexico alone, and I'm 60. And when people ask what it cost me, they're always thinking about like money. That's like the first question out of their mouth is, how much did it cost? So today I'm going to share with you the costs that nobody can really calculate, the personal costs that we never talk about. And to be clear, there are things I love about this decision and there are things that genuinely surprised me. Not in a good way or a bad way, they just surprised me. Today, I'm giving you an update, an actual honest portrayal of what my experience has been. The money, what isolation feels like, safety for women. This is a huge issue for a lot of women moving solo to Mexico. And also, I'm going to include the questions that I think that every woman in this age group needs to ask themselves before they make such a big move. Let me start with the thing that most surprised me because nobody ever talks about this. And I thought, it can't just be me, right? You know that feeling when you're sick? Like, I don't mean man cold sick. I mean, when you're actually like feeling either emotionally, mentally, or maybe just a flu-y sick, just a little sick. You're not crazy sick, but you know that feeling? For me, it's the actual only time that I, I struggle to be on my own. We tend to want to lean into our creature comforts. Here, I can't reach out to a friend who would be a creature comfort and ask them to bring me soup. I have people I like here, but it's not the same as those long held deep connections that we have. I'm someone that genuinely likes being alone, so this really got to me. I didn't know that it was going to affect me in that way. Like, I really notice it when I'm so used to being by myself. I remember when I sprained my ankle here. And it was a pretty bad sprain. But what actually happened was in my head, I started running the what ifs. So, what if it had been a more major accident? Who would look after my dog? How would I get back and forth to the hospital? You know, who's going to do my banking? Being so far from your anchor people hits differently when you're not well, whether it's a sprained ankle or the flu. This caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting that result of moving so far from my locus of support because I'd done it before. But I think the combination of the age and how far away I am and things like that have really changed it for me. And the next thing we're going to talk about is money because I know when people ask me, this is what they're wanting to know. How much does it cost? And I think there's this idea out there that Mexico is cheap, and it's partially true. It's all about context. Here is what I've actually paid in rent. And I have some notes here. When I first came, I rented an Airbnb, and I think it was either 11 or 1200 USD a month. I can't remember specifically, but it was just okay. Then I went up to a nicer 2-bedroom, but it was in a genuinely rough neighborhood, and I had to go up this hill, and there was a lot of garbage spots, which we'll talk about in a little bit, on the side of the road, and some, minor hoodlums that would hang out on the corner. So I decided to leave that place. Now I'm in a great area in a cute little studio, but it's stuffy as all get out. It's super stuffy because there is a patio, but it's a patio, so it's totally enclosed, so not a lot of fresh air. And I'm paying 800 here. Now, remember, all these prices are pre-utilities. I mean, the summer months are hideous for power because I think yesterday it was 35 degrees and like 80% humidity, and the power just went out. Before you move, here's a few things for rent alone that you're going to want to budget for. Before you make a move, just for rent alone, this is what I would suggest, and it's something that I did. Before you move, budget for first, last, and security. Budget for your mistakes because I definitely made one. I signed a lease in the second place I was in, and the area wasn't safe, so I had to get out. That cost me money, quite a bit of money. So that and you also want to buffer at least $100 US for utilities. Not that it'll cost you that much in the winter, but you want to save up a little bit of a buffer to have that in the summertime. You also want to have the equivalent of a round trip ticket because you never know. Things happen, they happen quickly. You want to always make sure that you have that emergency plane ticket if you need to go home in a hurry. We never know what is going to happen. This isn't about being pessimistic, just strategic, really. I do want to buffer them with the good things, the things that I love, the food. Oh my God, the food here is genuinely better and more, relatively more, the quality of the food here is genuinely better than I've had anywhere else in like anywhere in North America. And the cost is genuinely lower as long as you shop and eat locally. You have to be okay with shopping in an open market where language is a bit of a challenge, let's say, right? And sometimes I remember in the very beginning, it's scary. You go into a market, nobody speaks English, and you feel embarrassed. Some people think it's funny, some people are entertained, some people don't treat you very well at all. It just depends, but you just have to have that thick skin. But that's how you want to eat here because the food is amazing. Healthcare. Basic things like going to a doctor for a bump or a scrape, a rash, a sore throat, anything like that, super cheap, like really inexpensive. I think I pay my local GP, which is general practitioner. I think I pay her 12 or $13 when I see her, and then if I had to have tests and stuff, you'd pay more, right? But just regular stuff, it's not that expensive. And same with prescriptions. They're actually really reasonable here. I've been doing my bioidentical hormones here for years. A caveat with healthcare, you definitely want insurance. I've heard so many horror stories about people coming down here without insurance and ending up with a big bill. A friend of mine just ended up in the hospital for 2 days. What was it? $18,000 US. And they put a hold on his wife's card for 3 months, I think they said. But they know they're covered by insurance. Can you imagine if you didn't have that space on your credit card? Because they will not let you go unless you have some way to pay them. They will keep you in the hospital and you will continue to rack up bills. A day in the life for me, I love being outside and near the ocean and be able to go have a beach day or a pool day near the water. It's part of why I love it here and everything I expected it to be. Meeting people has actually been easier than I expected, even easier than meeting people at home. It's like it has a built-in natural social infrastructure for expats. The noise, Mexico is genuinely a loud culture. Even outside of the tourist areas, even if you're out in residential neighborhoods, sound systems, celebrations, general boisterousness at hours you would never predict. It's not a complaint for me. It's just a reality check that if you're thinking about moving to Mexico, noise is something, you really got to think about. I mean, you do get used to it. I don't love a lot of noise, but you kind of get used to it if you're open to getting used to it because it's definitely a part of the culture here. What is language? Oh my gosh, the language. I've been trying so hard, or maybe not as hard as I should. I'm not even sure. I struggle so much with this because I feel guilty that I'm trying to talk to Spanish speakers and I have barely a handful of words and I'm in their country. Because if you're going to go live in someone else's country, you should at least try to pick up, get around Spanish, which is what I'm trying to do now. But it really is a tax, like a tax on your energy in a day, particularly if you do things like go to the pharmacy and then go to the market and maybe go to the doctor, because, their English is usually far better than my Spanish, but still. The other thing I just want to mention was something that didn't actually occur to me until I got here. Actually, until I moved, that's when it really hit me. Was from one apartment to the other. Was you come down here with a couple of suitcases, and then you realize, oh, I'd really love a sharp knife because even though most apartments are furnished, It doesn't mean furnished with everything. It just means they're furnished. It doesn't mean they have a nice knife or even a can opener. So neither of which I have yet. But after I moved the last time, I recognized how much stuff I have accumulated, even in 5 months, and I don't want to continue to do that. But it is a reality that you have to get some things because what's a necessity for someone from Canada or the US may not be seen as a necessity for a landlord in Mexico. The next thing I want to talk about is something that I enjoy, but it's also a bit of a challenge. It's that constant cultural adjustment. Sometimes it's energizing. Sometimes, especially for us older gals who already have our rhythms and things that we like to do, it's just tiring sometimes. Both things are true. It's energizing, it's tiring, it's enjoyable, and it's uncomfortable. It's worth it. That part is totally worth it. This comes up a lot. This idea of safety. I have always felt safe in Mexico. February, there was a what I call the kerfuffle. I don't call it anything else. It just was what it was. And honestly, the news in Canada and the US was far worse than what most of us here were experiencing. I was actually out when it started. It was a Mexican national who stopped me and said, "No, we need to go home." Fair. And I knew he lived up my way because I'd seen him walking. But anyway, he just grabbed me and said, "No, you don't want to go down there. You want to go home." So I did. I went home. Only took a few minutes to figure out what was going on. But, they weren't, it wasn't that scary because if you live here, you understand that is part of the culture. I went home. I stayed home for 2 days. The texts from my friends were far more scary than what I was seeing, honestly. And even the videos that I saw in the news, I'm like, that's dumb. Like they're hyping it up as this big scary thing, and really, people were asked to leave their car so they could turn it into a fire. And yeah, that's crappy for sure, but they weren't trying to hurt anybody. That was the whole thing. In terms of safety as a woman, we just have to be as diligent here and remember we don't have that friend we can call. I want to give you a few questions I think you should consider if you're even thinking about making this kind of move here or any country. Not the logistics, those are totally solvable. Logistically, I mean, it's not that difficult, but I will give you more information on that. These are kind of the personal ones that you need to think about. If your thing is like theater because you're from New York or somewhere like that, or you have a very specific social network, find out if it exists before you move anywhere. That's really the bottom line. You also want to ask yourself, how do you do with aloneness? Like, not I'm an introvert, it doesn't actually matter, but real extended solitude. And be honest about this because this is something that could hit you like a ton of bricks. I am an introvert, and the aloneness sometimes gets to me because I can't just get in my car and go and see my friend down the road. Can you make friends with strangers easily? I mean, I've always kind of used it as my social outlet to talk to everybody. Harder here for sure because not everyone has English, but your whole social circle is going to be created from scratch again. So that's kind of a dip in, dip out, see how this person, that person is, that kind of thing. But you have to be able to ebb and flow with that in order for that to work for you. The other thing that's really important to ask yourself is, how is your health? Like, basic care, as I said, is completely affordable. And finally, ask yourself, are you going to have enough money to go home? Because I just saw a video the other day of someone who moved to the Philippines and now can't afford to go home because you get used to living in a certain way in another country that maybe doesn't cost you as much. And if you don't have enough to go home and do all the things, get yourself set up again, then it could end up feeling like a trap. Quick note on residency. Because this has changed dramatically. When I first started looking into residency, I think it was 2015, 2016, the income threshold was around $1,600 a month US. So that was independent income that I could still have here, whether or not I was living at home. That now I believe it's either 44 or 4,500 US. I'm going to put a link in so you can go check it out for yourself. But that's not a small shift, and it's trending up every single year. You can come here on a tourist visa for 6 months, but that's never guaranteed when you get to the gate. You may want to stay for 6 months, but they don't have to give you a 6 month visa. Now, I haven't heard of a lot of people having trouble, but that's very anecdotal. You're going to want to look into how you get here, but at least come for a couple months so you can figure out if this lifestyle even suits you, because you don't know until you try it. I'm going to put links in the description so you can go to the consulates and take a look and know what you're looking for. That's my 5 month update. If you're seriously considering this, drop your question below. I read them all and I answer everybody. If this was helpful, you know what to do. This channel is predominantly about being 50 or 60 single aged woman. YouTube thinks you'll like the one they've linked above.